Hey everybody, I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 11:30 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards, fire up your fingers, and come join the conversation. Hey everybody, I'm Mike. This is Budget Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are watching The Right of the People. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for showing up. And thank you very much to my esteemed panelists. Let's go ahead and introduce them. First up, we have the Tactical Pickle himself, Calaveras 32 Special. How are you, sir?
I'm doing just fine, Budget. I appreciate the invite. And just let me say, you know what? That is a creepy thumbnail, which is perfectly fitting for Friday the 13th.
Well, it's Joe Biden, so it was meant to be creepy. Speaking of someone who just plain old isn't creepy, we got Roll Call 219 in the house. How you doing, sir?
Hello.
And as always, rocking the Tactical Salmon Polo, we have the irascible yet lovable Squibload. How are you, sir?
Yeah, happy Friday the 13th. I keep forgetting that. Ugh. Gives you just this bad feeling.
Hey, I made it out of work and didn't get shanked today, so that makes me happy.
Does anybody here have tristodectophobia?
I do not.
Okay.
Speaking of hello, I want to say hello to everybody who's out there in the chat right now. We got Calaveras 32 Special and Squib both playing double duty. Poor Conservative's in the house. He's like, geez, 2 squibs in a pickle? Yikes. Mystic Guns is out there. Hello. The Hub 1964. JC is out there. Travis T is out there. John's Life. Gunpowder Beauty. Hello. Let's see. Who else is out there? Earth. Well, I don't believe I've seen that name out there, so welcome to the show. Clover Tack is asking if that's fear of Triscuits. No, it's an irrational fear of leprechauns.
It's an irrational fear of the number 13. I couldn't get to the mute button fast enough.
If you are new to the show and you've never subjected yourself to the humiliation of watching this, keep in mind that I'm quite all right with anybody out there in the chat disagreeing with what I or anybody else has to say. I am quite all right with a difference of opinion. I am not all right with personal attacks. I am not all right with bringing race into anything. I'm not all right with just generally being a dick, because my moderators will swing the band hammer. If they don't, I will. Feel free to disagree. Just be adults. Because, that's what having civil discourse is about. If we talk and we debate and we have opinions on things and we express ourselves in a manner that's going to get our point across instead of just be vitriol and hyperbole, we get to challenge our own assumptions and maybe grow a little bit. So please, let's have that conversation, because it is a conversation. I say this all the time, pretty much every week, that one of the things I love about this medium is that it is a conversation. I interact with my panel interacts with me, we all interact with each other via the chat. Be part of this conversation, folks. If you're listening to this on in the podcast, come listen on YouTube's Friday night, 11:30 p.m. Eastern on Budget Guns and Gear Reviews. And if you're watching this in a replay, let me know what you think in the comments below, because we got some stuff to talk about today. There's already a hashtag free Tardot out there. Bo Weevil's in the house, as is Alaska 556. Hello, everybody. So, what are we talking about today? Well, if you saw what Pickle tells me is an exceptionally creepy thumbnail, then you know Joe Biden is not wasting any time getting his gun control agenda moving forward.
Well, the reason he can't waste any time is because he's got one foot in the grave.
Well, there is that, or in the other foot in the nut house. Well, maybe I shouldn't have said that. The dementia
I'll
ward.
say it. I'll say it. I'll take the heat.
He's got one foot in the grave and the other in the dementia ward.
Well, I don't know if it's dementia ward or if he's just trying to get something done before he gets 25th Amendment.
Yeah, well, that too. He's scared of that lady whose hair smelt good, so he picked her, and now she's kind of frightens him, I bet. Speaking of ladies that are frightening, Gunpowder Beauty is threatening somebody out there. Just wanted you to know what I'm capable of. She cut up some pickles today.
Yeah, that was
Ouch.
threatening me.
Ow! All right, well, let's go ahead and get into the old top Rooney here as soon as I can pull everything up and get my stuff in order. First off, even though Joe Biden has not officially even been declared the winner and has definitely not been inaugurated yet, he's wasting no time. This is a piece from Lone Star Gun Rights from 2 days ago. Biden's transition team contacted the ATF to discuss gun control. The elections are far from over, and Biden's victory is nothing more than a unilateral declaration. This is true, except for the ATF, which is secretly transitioning itself to be in a position to restrict gun ownership under the Biden administration. Pardon me for a moment. I'm sorry. Amateur hour drinking carbonated beverages, right? ATF's acting director, Regina Lombardo, disclosed during a conference call on November 10, 2020, that Biden's transition team reached out to discuss ATF's top priorities. An insider disclosed that 80% lower receivers and pistol braces would be her priority. Biden has expressed disdain for the two items, which are crucial for millions of gun-owning Americans who are concerned about their security. The ATF recently warned several companies, including QLLC and SB Tactical, about pistol braces. However, the timing of the new crackdown on pistol braces was highly suspicious. Now it seems that the assault on pistol braces was calculated to launch the federal agency into a full gun control body under a possible Biden White House. True to his statement, the ATF uses a highly subjective process to determine whether the components are legal, and it only needs an anti-gun tester to rubber stamp them as illegal. An anonymous source had disclosed that current and previous ATF heads, including Associate Deputy Director Marvin Richardson and Curtis Gilbert, the former Department Assistant Director of Enforcement Programs and Services, have always hated pistol braces and planned to ban them. However, the lack of political capital stopped them from conducting a full assault on pistol braces and the Second Amendment rights of Americans. The potential of a Biden win emboldened the agency to disregard DOJ's ruling that prevented it from banning pistol braces. The Justice Department had ruled that the ATF should not regulate the pistol braces until the federal government clarified the rules. However, the ATF circumvented the DOJ by using its enforcement branch to issue the illegal letters and harass over 3 million businesses that used pistol braces. To avoid any possible reaction from the current administration, the ATF postponed any action for 60 days until an anti-gun administration possibly took over. Similarly, anti-gun groups' antipathy for the 80% lower receivers has never been more powerful. They argue that unfinished firearms lead to the production of ghost guns. They further allege that ghost guns are popular with criminals and mass shooters. Anti-gunners have relentlessly fought to ban DIY gun kits. The Obama administration banned 3D printers, claiming they violated the International Traffic in Arms Regulation, ITAR. However, the Trump administration reversed the ban, allowing the publication of 3D blueprints by Defense Distributed for download. Democrats, such as California Attorney General Javier Becerra, have always pushed for the classification of 80% lower receivers as firearms. They demand mandatory background checks for owning the unfinished gun parts. This would lead to innocent Americans being accused of owning firearms simply for having pieces of metal. Such an approach is not only risky, but highly ineffective in controlling illegal firearms. Additionally, crime statistics show that ghost guns, quote unquote, are rarely used in crime. Precisely, over 90% of firearms used in crimes are either stolen or bought on the dark market. The ATF wants to make Biden's agenda its top priority even before the election winner is determined. This shows that the agency's loyalty lies with the Democratic Party instead of the Constitution. The ATF was wishing for Biden's win so that it could transform itself into the gun control organization it has always wished to become. So, according to this piece, which I think also has information from a piece in Ammo Land by John Crump, who I think broke this story, that, old Sniffy Joe is sniffing around the ATF already. So, wonderful, right? What do you guys think? Is this much ado about nothing, or is this a logical extension of what they did with the bump stocks?
Sounds like, whether they, because with Harris wanting to push the anti-laws, and then with ATF, hot and ready to start going after anything that they can't write a law against, sounds like it's going to be the bump stocks all over again until we're down to nothing but muskets.
Yeah.
I think it's the strategy they've been using that works. The death by 1,000 paper cuts, right? First, they're going to go after this, and after that. So if they go after pistol braces and 80%, they're probably going to be more successful than, say, if they went after shotguns, right? They're going to go after things that not everybody has or not everybody cares about or what have you. If it's worked before, it'll work again. And that might be their way to gradually implement it. I think the real big push for anything will be after some whack job shoots up a gathering of any sort, whether it be inside a building or outside, whatever it is, where they can do a lot of damage.
Right around March or April, I figure.
Well, I mean, if that's when they decide to reopen the country, that's been an unfortunate benefit of having so many things canceled or postponed or restricted or what have you, is that these mass murders are less likely to occur. Is it interesting how it's not access to guns? If anything, gun sales are through the roof. You can't even find ammo in some places, right? More people are armed than ever, and there's still murders. There's still drive-bys and stuff, but these big mass murders aren't happening because people aren't congregated together in locations. It's kind of an interesting way to look at what's the real root cause of these events. If anything, America is more armed than it was before all of this.
So Whitmer is protecting you by making you go to the corner and stay there.
Well, protecting me from some whack job deciding to shoot up a large gathering, yes. Protecting me from...
So you heard it. You heard it. Whitmer is justified in keeping everybody locked down in Michigan. And,
whoa.
Yeah.
Hold up. First off, it's not a lockdown. The term lockdown drives me nuts. But from the standpoint of looking at what has not happened during all of this,
No, you're
and
right.
why? It's not the gun. It's not the ammunition. It's not how many forms you fill out to get it. It's the fact that people aren't at these places, these soft targets. If you apply that logic to it, yeah, but I'm not asking for her protection from anything except from her.
Okay.
You can give me whatever you want, but if I don't ask for it, I don't appreciate it.
I hear you.
Yeah, that's true. It seems like a good way to, limit the number of shootings at soft targets is to eliminate soft targets. But that might be another topic.
7. See, you popped in. Do you have an opinion on this?
Unfortunately, I've been having technical difficulties. Go figure.
Uh-oh.
I think I clicked the wrong button. I clicked the internet version instead of the app. So I'm probably gonna have to leave and come back. So no, I missed most of what you're talking about this time.
Oh, okay. Well, Ro, were you here? Did you hear everything? Do you have an opinion?
Shall not be infringed.
Okay, well, simple enough there. Clovertax says, I'll tell you what you can give me. Give me liberty or give me death.
Gun owners better wake up.
Kingpin's out there in the chat. You should have a link there, Kingpin. Hop in if you want to, brother. It says, but Drumpf was the worst from a 2A ever. Yeah, there were a lot of people that said that. Ryan says, Biden's coming for your AR-14. Yep. JC says it's the next step. We let them get away with the bump stocks. Now they're going to try for something else. Don't forget that Harris said she'd take all the guns by executive order. Absolutely correct. She absolutely said that, and I think you are absolutely, completely, totally, and utterly correct in your assertion that that's exactly what she's going to do, and that's exactly what this is. It's the next logical step. I think this is the continuation of what they did with bump stocks. The pistol braces are the next bump stock. It's going to happen, folks, and they're going to do it, and they're going to do it, as I've said, via regulation, what they can't do via legislation. And the only way we can fight that is through the courts, because we don't have even a lukewarm friend in the White House anymore. And yes, Trump was not anything but lukewarm on the Second Amendment at best. In his opinion, he thought he was great on the Second Amendment because he's, well, a lifelong New Yorker, and to him, he was. But that's, to those of us who actually understand the issue, we know that he was lukewarm at best. Now we have someone who's frickin' frigid on the Second Amendment, cold as ice, and willing to sacrifice our rights.
Trump said he'd sign national reciprocity if it came across his desk. It never came across his desk.
Never did.
So I don't know if
that's
that statement is really accurate because we don't have a litmus test.
So that's where, the last time, I don't remember him saying much about that when there was actually a legit chance of it crossing his desk. I heard him say it a few months ago before the election, but to me it sounded more like well, I know it's not going to happen, so I can promise this, but I'm never actually going to have to pay on it. So, I find it, the timing of it makes it awful suspicious.
Well, it's just another step in the right direction. I think Squibb was absolutely correct. He realizes that all throughout the history of gun control, it has been a little bit here, a little bit there, take a nibble here, take a nibble there. Pretty soon they've eaten half the pie, right? Well, that's where they're at. And this is just the next forkful. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, and that's what they've been doing.
Well, you've also got the people out there that keep going, oh, it's all right. The people who've conceded, oh, it's okay. We've got this, that, and the other, and that'll stop it. There's no guarantees there. Everything that we can have, that we can utilize, is valuable to us, whether it be who's in the White House or who's in Congress or who's in the Supreme Court. And that's only at a federal level, not at a state-by-state level. So some of these people have been coming on YouTube complaining about the people that voted for gun control, voted for the gun control candidate, saying that person's not going to really take your guns. And then 25 videos later are now saying, oh, well, we've got the Supreme Court. We're fine. Really? You're adding to the problem. If you want to be complacent, complacency is our biggest issue, I think. And by just saying, oh, it'll be fine. First off, the election hasn't been certified. So retract your statements. And then the next thing would be, regardless of the outcome, every potential, not guaranteed, but potential ally for the Second Amendment that is in Washington, D.C., is useful to us. But the less we have, the less effective we're going to be.
That's true, but I think right now it is important that we not lose the hope that, we can do what we can to fight this, because even if, as it looks like, and yes, people, it is looking like Joe Biden's going to be president. That's what it looks like.
Don't be so sure.
I'm saying that's what it looks like. It might not be what it looks like. It might not end up being that way, but right now, from what I can figure, that's what it looks like, because history has shown me Democrats can get away with whatever the fuck they want.
There's one.
With no consequence. And yes, there's one. And so far, it looks like they're getting away with it. If they do get away with it, if the lawsuits fail, if the recounts fail, if everything fails, and the worst happens, and we do have a Biden/Harris presidency, we need to be doing what we can to make sure that we don't lose the Senate. So it might be a good idea to funnel a few fazools down to Georgia, to the Republican down there, the two Republicans who are running in this runoff election, to help them win that. Because, that's important. We need to keep the Senate. Well, I say we as in our quote-unquote side, because we all know that politicians are really on their own side. That's a given. But the Republicans need to keep the Senate, because if the Democrats take the Senate, we're boned. Our only hope is the courts.
Well, because they've already got the House. If Democrats take the Senate, we're not going to have the courts, because they'll make
they'll pack
SCOTUS. Them. They'll make the SCOTUS 31 seats strong if they have to, in order and then pass a law to lock it in to guarantee that they have a majority. I mean, that's an extreme, obviously, but they have the arrogance. They've shown the willingness to do stuff like that before. They will do it again if they get the opportunity.
Gunpowder Beauty asks, so if a state goes to be a sanctuary 2A state, how does that work if Dems attack the 2A? Well, I think that sanctuary state would work right up until the Dems cut the funding off to the state. They tighten their fist and close the purse strings, turn off the faucet, however you want to say, take away the state's federal funding, and they'll eventually comply. Money. They hold the purse strings.
I got 3 things to rewind back to what Squibby said. If you're not to Twitter or any kind of other social media besides YouTube, you should really look into looking at making an account in some of these areas, because every anti-gun group is praising this outcome. I have seen Moms Demand Action. I have seen Every Town for Goofy Matters. I have seen them all say, now that we have these people in place, the real fight begins. And they are ready. They are ready to do this. So keep an eye on those social media accounts and those groups. They are really, really paced to push something forward in this next year.
They'll do it immediately.
They'll do it immediately. The second
that's why the cynical side of me says that there'll be a mass shooting or some other horrific event within the first 3, maybe 4 months of a Biden-Harris presidency to give it a kick in the ass.
The second thing I've been doing is I've been poking the bear, and I've been poking those big YouTubers, those people that live in that state of Georgia. I had posted something earlier on my Instagram account that I took off from a Chicago website of a man who won in Hawaii. Of course, he's liberal, but they said the real fight is in Georgia. They started putting links out. They started asking people to donate. These people are doing it right now. Don't sit back and be like, well. As a bit
of a preview to later in the show, there are even some people telling people to move to Georgia just to vote.
And I have poked and prod Eric from Iraq Veteran channel. I have poked everybody that I know that's a YouTuber to go and stop what you're doing, stop promoting your products, stop doing everything that's paying your bills at this point. Stop doing that and start pushing. Start pushing. These people have already started. These people have already started doing it. And lastly, if you're going to go on here and think that Trump's going to win, Trump's not going to win. I'm going to tell you that right off the get. He doesn't. First of all, he's not won enough states. Second of all, they are not going to allow this. They are not going to. So everybody, buckle up, put on your big boy pants, buckle up, take it on the chin, and let's move forward. They're never going to let this guy sit in office again. He's even touted about running for office in 4 years. Let's find a different candidate. Let's find somebody who can shut their mouth, push forward legislation that we all can agree on. That should be our goal this next 4 years, to beat back all this anti-gun legislation and find a candidate that we can. I don't want to say control, but put the thoughts in there and put facts in front of them and drive the initiative of beating back anti-gun legislation that we're going to see here in the next 4 years. And if you can agree with me, or you don't have to agree with me, that's fine. But I'm telling you, they have played their hand. They want to make lists of you people that voted for Trump, including myself. They want us off the face of the earth. If you go look at John Cusack's tweets the other day, he wanted to kill 30% of the population in America. That tells you what they think. And after Joe Biden sits on stage and says we all should hold hands and kumbaya, these people are lying.
I find it funny that the people who, for the last 4 years, have not accepted the results of the previous election and have been divisive and sowing dissent and destruction all across our country are now telling us that we have to just accept it and all come together and be unified. Bullshit. But that's another rant entirely. But before we continue, I would like to say, hey guys, it's 11:58 p.m. on the East Coast. Here in about 2 minutes, Daily Gun Show is going to start. If you want to talk about guns instead of gun politics, go on over and talk with G. He's been doing it longer and better than just about anybody else. So, if you want to talk about 9mm versus 45, lever action versus bolt action, pump shotguns versus semi-autos, and other gun stuff, history, and things like that, head on over there. But if you want to keep talking about politics, this is where we're going to do it. So I continue. Now, go ahead.
Never mind. I lost my train of thought.
Sorry. Earth says, I find it amazing that pro-gun Biden supporters still claim Biden doesn't have a gun agenda. Yeah, no kidding. They just don't want to see what the man's even telling you. But Biden's not the only one, as we all know, right? This is a piece from guns.com. Dems seek to strengthen ATF, keep check data. Democrats in Congress, allied with every large anti-gun group in existence, have unveiled the ATF Improvement and Modernization Act. The proposal, introduced by U.S. Representative Don Beyer, Democrat, Virginia, in the House, and U.S. Senator Chris Van Hollen, Democrat, Maryland, hey, thanks, Kingpin, in the Senate, is an 18-page bill which allows indefinite retention of NICS data, puts licensed gun dealers under increased scrutiny, opens the books on firearms trace data to anti-gun researchers, and increases funding to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Expletives. The common sense legislation puts forward sweeping changes that will help ATF and our country tackle the gun violence epidemic, said Van Hollen, who has long partnered with gun control groups such as Everytown. Of the 35 bills the Maryland Democrat has signed on to in Congress, many are anti-gun, to include legislation against 3D printing, a controversial ban on quote-unquote assault weapons, universal background checks, handgun licensing, and so-called red flag laws. Introduced in the Senate as S-4841, Van Hollen's latest measure has the enthusiastic support from Everytown for Gun Safety, Giffords, Brady, March for Our Lives, and the Coalition to Stop Gun Violence, among others, i.e., Mike Bloomberg is what it sounds like. Too often we don't see or think about the men and women at ATF working to make our country a safer place, said Adzi Vokiwa. That's what I'll go with. Adzi Vokiwa, Gifford's Federal Affairs Director. Their ingenuity and courage has been tragically limited by a federal government which has tied ATF's hands at every turn. Senator Van Hollen and Representative Beyer are taking an important step to correct this mistake by introducing the ATF Improvement and Modernization Act. On the other side of the argument, pro-Second Amendment groups such as the Firearms Policy Coalition are sounding the alarm on the AIM Act, calling it disturbing, as it would eliminate the long-held Tiert Amendment, which protects firearms tracing data, eliminates expense caps for ATF missions, allows FFLs to have their licenses revoked or denied easier, targets the importation of shotguns as well as curios and relics, and, perhaps most chilling, will allow the ATF to maintain a national centralized firearm database. In other words, national registration, people. In addition, the bill would allow federal regulators to keep NICS background check data, which is currently mandated to be deleted in 24 hours in the case of approved checks. Such a mandate on data retention has long been in place over concerns that Brady checks could lead to a national firearms registry. The AIM Act has been referred to the Senate Committee on the Judiciary. While the current session of Congress is set to expire in January, both Van Hollen and Beyer will be returning to Capitol Hill in 2021, so it is likely to see rapid reintroduction next year. For those of you who are like, well, with this Senate it's dead, you're right, it probably is dead. But, if this dude in Georgia wins, maybe it ain't. Here's a piece from Breitbart from, from November 10th. Democrat John Ossoff bans sale of semi-automatic rifles, high-cap magazines. Senate candidate John Ossoff, Democrat, Georgia, is campaigning on a ban on the sale of semi-automatic rifles and high-capacity magazines. On his campaign website, Ossoff says, "I support a ban on the sale of semi-automatic rifles, quote-unquote assault weapons, and high-capacity magazines to the general public." A ban on semi-automatic rifles, which he referred to as assault weapons, would be a ban on AR-15s, AK-47s, and variants of both platforms, together with numerous other commonly owned semi-automatic rifles, which happen to be some of the most popular firearms in America. The National Rifle Association's Andrew Arlanandum told Breitbart News that the current low-end estimate of privately owned AR-15s in the United States is 18 million. Again, that's only AR-15s. That is not counting AK-47s and the incredible number of other semi-automatic rifles owned and treasured by Americans. Ossoff's ban on the sale of high-capacity magazines is no less egregious. The National Shooting Sports Foundation sent Breitbart News information on consumer magazine possession for the years 1990 to 2018, and it shows that there are an estimated 79.2 million privately owned 30-round rifle magazines in America. If we treat high capacity as any magazine holding 11 or more rounds, then there are an estimated 88.6 million such privately owned rifle magazines in America. And we've not even begun to discuss the millions of pistol magazines that hold 11 rounds or more. Ossoff is also campaigning on the passage of red flag laws, universal background checks for gun purchases, and closing the gun show loophole, among other controls. He is headed for a January 5th, 2021 runoff election against pro-Second Amendment Senator David Perdue, Republican, Georgia. The race between Ossoff and Perdue is one that will decide whether the Senate remains in Republicans' pro-Second Amendment hands or falls to the pro-gun controlled Democrats. So when I say send a few bucks to Georgia, that's why. When I say do what you can to support keeping the Senate in Republican hands, that's why. When I say in the coming days that we're going to have to contact every senator, not just our own, contact every senator, assuming the Republicans keep the Senate, contact every senator to make sure that they keep a little bit of rigidity in their spines. That's why. Because if the Democrats have their way, Half of the shit in this gun cabinet back here is gone. Half of the shit in your gun cabinets, folks, are gone. Or you'll be forced to pay a $200 tax and register everything with the NFA, your magazines, your rifles, your pistols, everything, or they'll be gone. So, go ahead and just sit on your ass or do something to help. Do something to support the people and the causes that are going to help keep your rights for you. Or not. That's up to you. Please discuss, gentlemen.
That's their goal, man. That their goal is to ban everything, anything and everything. If it's an AR, ban it. If it's an AK, ban it. You know what? Oh, you don't need that Glock 19 with 15 rounds. You know what you need? You need some kind of BS that holds 5 rounds, because that's all you need. Just like a shotgun, that's all you need. You need to really be aware that if this happens, buy a shotgun. If this happens, this is going to be one of the most devastating things to gun owners since the first assault weapons ban. And some of the other things that came around after that. I mean, we're either going to lie down like they have in the past. All of these people that are all older than me, all these fuddy fuds, or we're really going to hit this stuff head on, like I said in the last segment. It's a do or die situation at this point. We're going to be battling for the next 4 years to keep our gun rights, and we better start now before that dirty old man puts his hand on God's Bible and lies about keeping his oath and the oath to the Constitution. If we don't get on this bandwagon now and never jump off it, then we should just let the bandwagon roll by.
Now, Gabe Stark brings out something that is very much a valid, legitimate point. Says, who says just because they're Republicans means they're pro-2A? You're absolutely correct. But Republican, generally speaking, and again, this is just a generalization, generally speaking, Republican means more friendly to 2A than Democrat does. Because generally speaking, you're going to vote along with your party, or the shit you want to get done isn't going to get done. And generally speaking, historically speaking, Republicans have been more friendly to the 2A. Not super friendly, not uber friendly, because if they were uber friendly, we'd have had a whole bunch of shit passed when during the Trump administration in the beginning, when they had both the House and the Senate and the White House. We would have had the Hearing Protection Act passed. We would have had national reciprocity passed. We would have maybe gotten rid of some of the garbage off the NFA too. But I understand it's not necessarily pro-2A. But I guess maybe being Republican means they're less anti-2A, if you want to look at it like that. Because we absolutely know what the Dems want to do. They're telling us. Alaska 556 says Mitch McConnell fought Obama for 8 years. He will do the same against Biden. Yes, he will. But that assumes Republicans maintain control of the Senate.
Yeah,
that has to happen.
If the government turns Democratic in the Senate, Mitch McConnell will have no power at all. He will be just like what Nancy Pelosi was the last 4 years. A rotten, stinky old person that had no bearing on anything that happened.
And no hub, not necessarily. But again, I'm talking generalities. I'm sure you can point to specific examples that go against the core. But even so, look at their voting records, and I'm sure that you'll find that more often than not, they'll side with party.
That's true, because they'll side with party, like you said, about if you break from the party, you're not going to get anything done. Because that's true. It could be, your party could, you could be pushing the mainstream party, idea this time, but they're going to remember 3 months ago you went with the competition. They're going to do anything they can to torpedo you. Because they don't want to give you that win because people associate you with, going against what they wanted.
I want to throw this out for the young gun owners and the voters out there. One of the main reasons why some of these people are in office is because they pretend they care about you. They pretend they care about your lifestyle. They don't care about your lifestyle. They don't care about anything but holding to get them elected.
Yep. That's why I say it every week.
Yeah, I mean, there's no guarantee in life. And I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what you buy or who you buy it from. There's no guarantee. These people are selling the horse before the cart every time they go out there on any kind of level or platform to try and gain your vote. This is why it's so important when these people are elected that you hold them accountable. When you just elect them because they say something is true and then they go back and falter on their promises, you hold them to that. And I think that's one of the scariest situations that we face now. Me and Budget had a conversation on Facebook the other day about when the Senate was tied. And he's like, well, there's independents that hold those seats. Yeah, but then you have to go back and look at those independents and see where they lean. Do they lean left or do they lean right? Do they lean for gun rights or do they lean to ban guns? So, I mean, not every seat is guaranteed. Yep. But I'm wholeheartedly telling you, people, when you elect these people, you hold them accountable for everything that they do, especially for your constitutional rights. You
need to. But there's some good news in the Second Amendment world, because we have all this politics stuff still hanging over our heads, and I think that a lot of us. Okay, I can really only speak for myself, so maybe I will feel a bit better once we see how things actually settle out in the end, one way or the other, and we know exactly what we're dealing with. I think the uncertainty of the future has us kind of on edge with that. But there are some good things out here. Here's some news from Florida. This is from The Hill from November 11th. DeSantis proposing anti-mob legislation to expand Florida's Stand Your Ground law. This is by Jordan Williams. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is proposing anti-mob legislation to expand the state's Stand Your Ground law, according to the Miami Herald. The legislation would reportedly expand the state's list of forcible felonies to justify using force against people engaging in conduct resulting in the interruption or impairment of a business. It would also justify the use of force against those involved in looting, which is defined as a burglary within 500 feet of a violent or disorderly assembly. The proposal also adds criminal penalties for engaging in violent or disorderly assemblies and would make blocking traffic during a protest a third-degree felony. The newspaper notes, adding that it would also offer immunity to drivers who say they accidentally killed or injured protesters who block traffic and withhold state funds from local governments that cut law enforcement budgets. I'm against cutting budgets, by the way. But don't. Let's see. The legislation was drafted amid the series of protests this summer over the police killings of unarmed African Americans, according to the Herald. The protests began after the death of George Floyd in police custody. While many of these protests were peaceful, some turned violent, like all of them. The violence drew the attention of President Trump, who repeatedly blamed it on Antifa, the radical left, and in a bid to portray himself as a law and order president. The Trump administration had been heavily targeting protesters since then and has been more aggressive with charging them. DeSantis pledged in September to crack down on violent and disorderly assemblies, the Herald notes, pointing to unrest in other parts of the country amid Floyd's death. It's clear that the Trump beauty pageant is still going on, with governors and senators who all want to be the next Trump. Miami Beach Mayor Dan Gelber, Democrat, well, no shit, told the newspaper, and the governor is clearly a very good contestant. So there may be some hope in Florida for people who want to resist these mobs and escape these mobs and defend themselves from these mobs, so that maybe they don't get Kenosha'd. But there's more, because here in the wonderful Buckeye State, there actually is legislation filed that does very much the same. This is from Fox19.com. New criminal charges proposed to combat rioting, looting in Ohio. By Jared Goffinet from November 10th. Cincinnati, Fox 19. A bill aimed at creating new criminal charges to combat rioting, looting, and violence in Ohio has been introduced by State Representatives Sarah Carruthers, R. Hamilton, and Cindy Abrams, R. Harrison. A person who participates in an aggravated riot and causes physical harm would be charged with a fifth-degree felony under Ohio House Bill 784, according to a release from the Ohio House of Representatives. The riot assault charge would be a fourth-degree felony if the assault is against a peace officer, the release reads. It would be charged as a third-degree felony if the peace officer suffers serious physical harm, HB 784 states. Peace officers would also be able to file civil suits against those responsible, the Ohio House of Representatives bill says. Additionally, vandalism to public or private property and obstructing roadways during a disorderly assembly would have increased penalties under the bill. When businesses are boarded up and shut down as a result of the actions of a few agitators, law-abiding Ohioans lose, small businesses lose, and jobs are lost, Carruthers said. This is a common-sense bill that supports... I love how she adopted the left language there. This is a common-sense bill that supports the right to peacefully assemble while holding accountable those who break the law. Carruthers said these types of reckless and irresponsible actions are usually from a handful of agitators and take away from the overall message of law-abiding demonstrators. HB 784 now awaits referral to a House committee. Cincinnati was one of many cities in the country that saw protests calling for change after the death of George Floyd. The protests of late May and early June were largely peaceful, but at points devolved into vandalism throughout downtown and over the Rhine. In June, Cincinnati Police Chief L.A. Isaac said 513 people were arrested for curfew violations. At least one person was arrested for looting during the protests. Justin Crum, 35, was seen by Saks Fifth Avenue security on video camera, breaking a window and, with 6 to 8 others, stealing $60,000 in merchandise from inside the store while it was closed during the unrest in downtown Cincinnati. So it talks about lawsuits against 50 people and whatnot. But that's not all that's in the bill. They're leaving out something that is huge to prevent the Kenosha-ing of other people. So let me go to this for you. This is the text of the bill, House Bill 784, in the General Assembly of Ohio. And let me go down to this part. This is Section C of the Ohio Revised Code, as amended here, starting on line 30. For the purpose of determining the potential liability of a person in a tort action related to the person's use of force alleged to be necessary to flee or escape persons engaged in aggravated riot or riot in violation of Section 2917.02 or 2917.03 of the Revised Code, a person who reasonably believes that the person is in danger of imminent bodily harm may take any steps necessary to flee or escape from persons engaged in aggravated riot or riot in violation of Section 2917.02 or 2917.03 of the Revised Code, and get this, folks, is justified in using or threatening to use reasonable force, including deadly force, to escape the aggravated riot or riots. So, what that section of the bill is saying is that you can use reasonable force up to and including lethal force to get away from the mob that's pursuing you. Does that sound familiar? Does it sound like maybe a law like this could benefit some kid up in Wisconsin? Does to me. So there's some what I consider to be good news for Floridians and Ohioans there, assuming that those laws pass. What do you guys think? Good news or terrible, horrible laws?
My concern is you're gonna have some handicap parking cop scenario, and it's gonna after this law passes, and that's gonna be used to blow the whole thing up in our faces nationwide.
How is fleeing from a riot, fleeing from a mob, equivalent to Captain Handicap Space, who rightfully got charged with murder?
Yes, but that's for the at least on a national stage.
Oh, they'll try.
That's what I'm saying. On the national stage, they didn't talk about him getting charged afterwards. It just made a big hoopla about him using his firearm. Now, I could totally see the antis, using, someone opened fire, because they thought they were protected by this law, yada yada, when really they were going out looking for trouble. They were being, they were wannabe cops. They were whatever. They would spin in a number of different ways. Like I said, my concern is, someone will, be chased by a mob, will engage to try to defend themselves, and it's going to be spun, and it's I'm not saying it's not a bad thing. I'm just saying these are my apprehensions on the whole thing.
Earth points out, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Earth points out, Ohio says use force to escape. Florida says you don't have to try to escape. I'd rather not have to prove I used deadly force while trying to flee. Travis T says, because JC said something about I have to admit, I assume this was already legal in Florida. Travis T says, JC, only forcible felonies are justifiable use of deadly force in Florida. So, oh, by the way, I want to say thank you to the hater who thumbed this down. Awesome. Love the engagement. Thank you very much to the 13 of you out there who thumbed it up. Really love that engagement. So, yeah. Thank you, hater. Engagement's engagement, buddy. Keep on watching everything I do and keep on thumbing it all down. Because that just tells YouTube you're interested in it. So they'll keep showing it to you. There's more progress on the legal front, though. Remember last week we talked about Second Amendment Foundation's lawsuits in conjunction with the Firearms Policy Coalition. But there are more lawsuits that are going forward now that have to do with the Second Amendment and the First. Excuse me. And since the tagline of this show is using the First to defend the Second, I think it's pretty doggone awesome that this is being allowed to happen. This is from Reason.com, the Volokh Conspiracy, by Eugene Volokh. This is from 11/9/2020. Lawsuit over school's restriction on pro-gun shirts can go forward. NJ versus Sonnabend, decided Friday by Judge William J. Griesbach, involved two students being told by their schools, Shattuck Middle School and Kettle Moraine High School, that they couldn't wear these T-shirts. One is, for those who can't see, one says Smith & Wesson Firearms, made in the USA since 1832. And the other has a Mandalorian helmet with his disintegrator disruptor crossed, two of them crossed behind him, says, I'm a patriot, weapons are part of my religion. Then there's another one that's a Wisconsin Carry shirt with something, some kind of quote on the back of it. The district claimed that they should win as a matter of law, not on the grounds that shirts caused some disruption, but on the grounds that they just weren't protected by the First Amendment. Defendants contend that none of the shirts can constitute protected speech, primarily because the shirts fail to convey a particularized message and because 2 of the shirts are merely advertisements for companies that happen to have a picture of a firearm on them. No, said the court. Clothing that bears explicit messages or symbols which are intended to convey a political or other message can clearly amount to speech entitling the wearer to First Amendment protection. Defendants argue that in order for printed words or pictures on a shirt to receive constitutional protection, the message being conveyed must be clear and unmistakable. But that is not the law. A narrow, succinctly articulable message is not a condition of constitutional protection. If it was, the First Amendment would never reach the unquestionably shielded painting of Jackson Pollock, music of Arnold Schoenberg, or Jabberwocky verse of Lewis Carroll. Applying these principles to the pleadings in this case, the court concludes that each of the shirts at issue plausibly falls within the protection afforded by the First Amendment. Defendants argue that the Smith & Wesson shirt is not protected speech and is instead an advertisement for a company that just happens to contain a picture of a firearm. Because it is merely the name of a company with the image of a firearm on a shirt, they claim that the shirt fails to convey any particularized message such that it would be entitled to protection by the First Amendment. NJ, for his part, argues that even if it is commercial speech, the shirt is still entitled to some constitutional protection. Commercial speech is speech that proposes a commercial transaction. In wearing his Smith & Wesson shirt to school, NJ was not proposing a commercial transaction, at least according to the complaint. Plaintiffs allege in their complaint that each of them believes in the value to society of personal possession of arms as guaranteed by the Second Amendment. Both the Smith & Wesson shirt and the I'm a Patriot shirt are intended to convey NJ's belief in the importance of the right to bear arms. The same is true of the WCI shirt that AL sought to wear at the Kettle Moraine High School. Defendants argue that the WCI shirt is merely an advertisement and that in any event, the shirt does not convey any particularized message. They contend that the court should not consider the text from the Wisconsin Constitution on the back of the shirt because it is not included in the description of the shirt set out in the complaint. It is well established, however, that documents attached to a motion to dismiss are considered part of the pleadings if they are referred to in the plaintiff's complaint and are central to his claim. Such documents may be considered by a district court in ruling on the motion to dismiss. While not strictly speaking a document, the WCI shirt is the equivalent and serves the same purpose in this case. The WCI shirt is referred to in AL's complaint and is central to his claim. The court therefore considers the message of the entire shirt and not just the language and image of a handgun on the front of the shirt, though the front alone would appear to be constitutionally protected for the same reason as the message conveyed by the Smith & Wesson shirt. Not only did plaintiffs intend to convey a clear message in wearing their shirts, it also seems clear that school authorities understood the message plaintiffs were intending to convey, at least to the extent their message included an appreciation for the right to own firearms. School officials are alleged to have told both NJ and AL that they were prohibited from wearing the shirts because of their depiction of firearms. Based on the allegations of the complaint, it at least appears that the school officials' response to NJ's shirts was motivated by the very message NJ sought to convey in a school setting. Each of the shirts at issue there is therefore entitled to constitutional protection. That protection, of course, is not absolute. Whether defendants were justified in prohibiting plaintiffs from conveying their messages in the manner and place chosen by them remains to be decided. Defendants' motion for judgment on the pleadings on the ground that the shirts lack constitutional protection, however, is denied. Quite correct, I think. For more on K-12 student speech rights, see this video on free speech in schools. So, there you go, folks. The lawsuit is permitted to continue. They did not dismiss it out of hand. I think that is pretty freaking awesome. That is a blow for both the First and the Second Amendment. Do you gentlemen have an opinion on the subject?
That's right. Having the argument, well, it has to have a specific message is a load of especially how many kids high school and then even up into college that'll wear I don't know the guy's name, Shay Jeva whatever. It's the usually like a red shirt with a black face, outline of guy's face, and he was a leader of a socialist revolution. If they tried to say someone wearing that shirt wasn't allowed to wear it, it would have caused an unholy hellstorm. So that's where the whole if one's fine, so is the other one. So I mean, they're both freaking protected. That's the whole point of the first dang amendment.
Either of you other two have a opinion on this?
I try and send my kids to school without any kind of gun, anything on there, just to avoid this. I mean,
Yeah, me
let's
too.
face it. Let's face it. I understand the First Amendment stuff, all that jazz, but look what they're doing to kids that go on the Zoom meetings with a Nerf gun in the background. It's a headache. I understand, and I'm glad that they're fighting for it. Don't get me wrong. I would just rather avoid it. There's bigger things like their grades and stuff to fight for than that.
Gabe Stark says, but go ahead and wear your Nike shirt that advertises slave labor. Yep, exactly.
Well, and that's and I don't necessarily argue with the there's bigger things to worry about, so that's it's not a bad idea to just kind of be for the kids to kind of be gray man when it comes to stuff like that. But the point is, it's protected. They if they want to wear something like that, legally they're allowed to.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, HESA says the people have a right to keep and bear arms for security, defense, hunting, recreation, or any other lawful purpose. That's the piece that was quoted from the Wisconsin Constitution. Thank you for clarifying that, HE. Thank you. All right. So there we have it, folks. We have once again a government entity, schools, trying to suppress the speech of students, trying to get them to be nice little conformist, as Rush calls them, brains full of mush, trying to make them a bunch of blithering idiots.
Well, that's for before you get into the next. That's for they want to be brains full of blithering liberal mush. Let's be specific here.
But speaking of idiots.
And now prepare yourself for another tale of stupidity in this episode of Moron of the Week.
First up is a contestant on Moron of the Week is this piece from freebeacon.com. New York Times columnist urges Democrats to commit voter fraud in Georgia. This is by Colin Anderson from November 11, 2020. New York Times columnist Thomas Friedman urged national Democrats to move to Georgia and vote in its upcoming Senate runoff elections, a clear violation of state law should the voters leave after the races conclude. I hope everybody moves to Georgia, in the next month or two, registers to vote, and votes for these two Democratic senators, Friedman said during a Monday night CNN appearance. Georgia election law does not include a length of residency requirement in order to vote in the state. Excuse me. It does, however, prohibit prospective voters from residing in the state briefly with the intention just to vote and then move away. You do not have to establish residency for a period of time before an election in order to qualify to vote, but you do have to establish intent to remain a resident, Honest Elections Project Executive Director Jason Sneed told the Washington Free Beacon. You can't bus yourself in, register at the Holiday Inn, vote, and then leave 2 days later. That would clearly constitute fraud. Party control of the Senate will be determined in the January 5 runoffs. Republican Senators David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler will face Democratic challengers John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, respectively, after all 4 candidates failed to receive a majority of votes in the November election. Both Ossoff and Warnock have relied on out-of-state donors to fund their campaigns, and the Democrats launched their runoff bids by fundraising with Silicon Valley progressives just days ago. Some local activists have responded warmly to the call for non-Georgians to vote in the runoffs. Handmaids Coalition of Georgia organizer Tamara Stevens invited Northern Democrats and West Coast liberals to flock to the state in order to vote in a recent Facebook post. "You are all invited to spend the winter in Georgia," Stevens wrote. "Come on down and we will cook for you too." Failed presidential candidate Andrew Yang announced on Saturday that he would be moving to Georgia to help Ossoff and Warnock win. While he did not disclose if he plans to vote for the Democrats, he did note that there isn't much time before the state's December 7th registration deadline in a previous tweet. Snead lambasted the strategy to coax out-of-state Democrats to move to Georgia to vote, calling it a naked political power grab. "My general reaction to this is, are you kidding me?" he said. "It's supposed to be the senator from the state of Georgia, and I think that Georgians have a right to select their representatives and have a government that is by and for the people of Georgia." Neither Ossoff nor Warnock returned requests for comment. So, Thomas Friedman, your contestant number 1 on Moron of the Week. Next up is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This is a piece from AMOLand. Democrat enemies list threatens dissenters with Chi-Com-inspired retaliation. Is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future? Sitting member of Congress Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweeted threateningly Friday, "I foresee decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, photos in the future." She was not alone, as a partial compilation posted by The Blaze proves. Included in that story was an idea from the former CIA operations officer Evan McMullen, that is, a career feeder from the public trough, an agent of the much ridiculed by the left concept of the deep state, who advocates we should keep and publish a list of everyone who assists Trump's frivolous and dangerous attacks on the election. Name and shame forever. Any R now promoting rejection of an election or calling to not follow the will of voters or making baseless allegations of fraud should never serve in office, join a corporate board, find a faculty position, or be accepted into polite society. Jennifer Rubin of the Washington Post chimed in, "We have a list." As an aside, Rubin is presented to the public as a conservative in order for anyone to the right of her to be smeared as an extremist or worse. "It's not only that Trump has to lose, his enablers have to lose," Rubin insists. "We have to collectively burn down the Republican Party. We have to level them. Because if there are survivors, if there are people who will weather this storm, they will elect a president again." As to Rubin using the word baseless, that's calculated to spread a narrative talking point, and all the DSM, Durante Stryker Media, journalists are doing it. Open the news tab on Google search and see for yourself. It's no coincidence that talking heads of all parrot the same points. And as to the claim that concerns over voter fraud really are baseless, it's remarkable how deliberately incurious Democrat sympathizers are to investigate claim after claim. I guess that means the names of those of us calling for their investigation can consider ourselves on the new blacklist. Funny, they ignore all those red flags as unsubstantiated, but demand to disarm their countrymen even if even one allegation is thrown. Remember what they did, the self-named Trump Accountability Project proclaims as if salivating at the prospect of show trials. We must never forget those who furthered the Trump agenda. Never forget? Those are words used to memorialize the Holocaust. Equating Trump and Republicans with Nazis is straight out of the communist Antifa playbook. And those aren't the only time-tested communist tactics being employed. It's no surprise that an academic demanding accountability for anti-lockdown scholars smugly wears a Chinese communist hat. We can't allow unapproved thoughts, you know, and our college campuses cannot allow a pro-Trump law professor to support the president. That's violent and racist. See, it's not just Trump they object to. He is an avatar for those who support the policies that won him the presidency. It's deplorable America that's racist, and if you voted for him, it's not just his head Kathy Griffin symbolically carries, now that she figures it's safe after she cravenly played the tearful persecuted woman card the last time. All kinds of celebrities are piling on and letting the president's supporters know they're now on the reprisals list. I hate Donald Trump, and if you like him, I hate you too, Australian rapper who moved to America, Iggy Azalea, tweeted. F Donald Trump and every American citizen, celebrity, white woman, black man, etc. who supported him. Burn. Another rapper, Janelle Monáe, never heard of her, weighed in, flipping her middle finger in a selfie just to make sure they get the message. The Republican Party has wanted a pawn to carry out their agenda and help do their dirty work for a while. This is why the racist, sexist, white nationalists, white supremacists, etc. that make up the party won't call for impeachment. Racist in chief is also a pawn, she had previously tweeted. The first reaction for most gun owners might be, who? Closely followed by, who the hell cares what these stupid expletives think? Well, between the two of them, they have almost 9 million Twitter followers, and their opinions, no matter how brain-dead and obnoxious, help form the political environment we all must live in. And more mainstream and likely to affect middle America, we have the ladies from ABC News' Disney's The View telling their audience, Trump has shown us that he's a misogynist, that he's a homophobic, that he is racist, and that he mismanaged the coronavirus pandemic to the tune of over 250,000 American deaths. That 50% of America saw all of that and looked the other way. That is really disheartening. It's official. Trump's a hater. So are his followers. And we all know hate speech isn't free speech, so it's okay to shut it down. And Kamala Harris even has further plans for taking guns away by closing the hater loophole. What we're seeing with all this is the so-called cancel culture coming to close down more than social media accounts. What this really is, and indicative of the direction the Democrats are now openly and defiantly heading in, is the U.S. version of demeaning communist Chinese social credits with punishments and rewards to define a person's place in society. Next up, and we've seen the beginning of this with restaurant diners intimidated into raising their fists for coerced Black Lives Matter solidarity, look for struggle sessions. During this cultural revolution of communist China, a favorite tactic of Mao's fanatical followers was the struggle session. If the Red Guard, the youthful fans of Chairman Mao who believed in his infallibility, thought that you were counter-revolutionary or that you were not radical enough, they would surround your house and drag you out into the town square. There, you and others equally accused of imaginary crimes were screamed at and beaten by the Red Guard. Of course, your relatives and neighbors would join in because they would not want to fall into disfavor with the politically correct mob. That's what these people, the self-styled arbiters of tolerance, are calling for, destroying the reputations and ability to earn a living or even coexist in society of anyone who is not a vocal revolutionary. Remember, silence is violence. And if they're itching to take the revenge out on Republicans, imagine how much more rage-fueled they are against any American who believes in his unalienable right to keep and bear arms, and that it is the ultimate safeguard against the horrors of totalitarianism. Except we don't have to imagine. They've already told us they consider such people deserving of a traitor's fate. Hell, Obama's mentor Bill Ayers has even set the figure of those who have to go at 25 million. If he pulls off this election steal we're told we'll be sorry for talking about, is everybody here ready to obey Joe Biden's threatened new infringements? So, there we have it, folks. AOC and others, you're the next contestants as well on Moron of the Week. But wait! There's more. Because the next contender for Moron of the Week is a Portland City Commissioner who wants to defund the police but called 911 on a Lyft driver. This is from foxnews.com. Yes, I know. By Paul Best. Published 3 days ago. Portland City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty, who has pushed for police budget cuts, called 911 after a Lyft driver canceled her ride and asked her to get out of his car. Lyft driver Richmond Frost told 2 Portland Police Department officers who Alright, this is really starting to piss me off. Fox, knock this shit off. Alright, now maybe I can read this. Portland City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty, who has pushed for police budget cuts, called 911 after a Lyft driver canceled her ride and asked her to get out of his car. Lyft driver Richmond Frost told 2 Portland Police Department officers who responded to the scene on November 1st that Hardesty became irate when he refused to roll the windows up, according to a dispatch report. These pop-ups are really pissing me off. Frost pulled into a Chevron gas station, canceled the ride, and apparently asked her to leave the vehicle. Hardesty allegedly said she refused to exit the vehicle because it was cold and she was a woman and alone. She called 911, telling the operator, "Well, I've got a Lyft driver that decided he would just drop me off at a filling station. Well, I'm not getting out of the car in the dark at a filling station, not happening. All because I asked him to put the window up. I'm not leaving. I am not going to allow him to leave me on the side of the road. I paid for a ride and he says he canceled it, so I'm just going to sit here until he sends me another ride." The dispatcher explained that it's Frost's property, no crimes were committed, and only she can order another Lyft. Officers were sent to the scene. Lyft currently recommends that drivers keep windows down while a passenger is in the car to ensure air circulation and mitigate the spread of coronavirus. After Hardesty called 911, Frost made his own 911 call. "I've got a customer that I canceled the ride. I'm a rideshare driver and I canceled the ride, and I've taken her off the freeway to this filling station so that she can order another ride," Frost told the 911 operator. "I canceled the ride so she's no longer involved or engaged with me. She's refusing to get out of my car." Hardesty, who oversees the Bureau of Emergency Management, which includes the city's 911 system, did not respond to multiple requests for comment. She told the Portland Tribune that she called 911 because she felt unsafe. "I don't call 911 lightly, liar, but I certainly am not going to do anything that would put my personal safety at risk," Hardesty told the newspaper. "It's a lot harder when you are black or brown in America to make that decision, but I ultimately had very limited options." Hardesty has been pushing for a budget amendment that would reallocate $18 million from the Portland Police Bureau to reinvest in community COVID-19 relief and police alternatives. After the Portland City Council failed to pass the budget amendment last week, Hardesty called on elected leaders to move past the fear and stretch ourselves to take the action that is demanded. In June, we started this journey by reallocating $15 million from the Police Bureau and redirecting those funds toward community investments, she said in a statement November 5th. "We came into this budget with the same goal of investing in our communities and reducing police by providing mutual aid, because if Portlanders can't depend on Portland to keep them safe and supported, who can they count on?" Well, apparently not your hypocritical ass. I think you were hoisted on your own petard there. I don't want the police to do anything. I don't want there to be police until I want the police. And as always, runner-up sniffing around behind is Joe Biden. Just because, well, he's Joe Biden. So there you have it. New York Times columnist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others, the Portland commissioner, or Joe Biden, just for being Joe Biden. Pickle, who deserves to be moron of the week?
That's a tough one. I guess I'll have to go with New York Times for suggesting people commit what I would imagine is probably a low-grade felony.
Roll call. Who deserves it?
I'll do the rideshare lady. She's a moron.
Rideshare lady. Squibby?
Well, I can't vote for Joe Biden. He's the best thing that's ever happened to the Second Amendment. Yeah, this is just a tough one.
New York Times columnist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others, Portland City Commissioner, or Sniffy Joe?
Well, two of the other ones are politicians, left-wing politicians, and they're good for the Second Amendment too, so I can't vote for them. So I guess I have to vote for the person who isn't a politician, at least not a left-winger, because they're the best.
Okay, so the New York Times dude. Out there in the chat, this is where it's up to you. Who deserves to be the moron of the week? The New York Times columnist, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and others, the Portland commissioner, the rideshare lady, or Joe Biden, just because he's Sniffy Joe. All right. HE says Sniffy. We'll get you down for Biden. Travis T says Biden. JC says AOC and friends. Seven Wonders says AOC and friends. Played the scared woman card and the race card. Yes, she did. Are you voting for her then, Earth? The hub says that donkey-looking girl, AOC. Travis T says, Joe, well, you already voted for Joe Biden there, Travis. Ozzy Osbourne's barking at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Who do we got out there? We got 20 folks out there watching, so sound off. Who deserves to be the moron of the week the most? New York Times columnist Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Portland commissioner, or Joe Biden? So far, 2 for NYT, 4 for AOC, 1 for Portland, and 2 for Biden. M. Gabriel says AOC. Travis says that's because he deserves 2 votes from me. Yeah, no. This isn't the Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, or Arizona, or Nevada, or wherever elections.
Hold on. I got some new votes coming in.
You found some votes?
They all say Joe Biden.
Did you find a flash drive that they all voted for Joe Biden?
I
allow it. I allow it. That's 700,000 votes for Joe Biden. So, because of the new flash drive, Joe Biden, you're the moron of the week.
I guess he didn't.
And there
need
we
the votes
had
I
another
found.
tale of stupidity in this week's episode of Moron of the Week.
I figured if the mainstream media can just declare a winner, I can too.
Might as well, right? If we're gonna make a sham out of something as important as the presidential election, you might as well make a sham out of everything else.
Why not? That was a good one, Ro. Thank you for bringing that into this. That was pretty freaking good.
That's why I'm here.
Well, unfortunately, Ro, I know you're lying. I know that what you're really here for is the next segment, which is Roll Call 219's favorite, self-defense shoutouts.
Yay!
For those of you who are new to the show or who have never stuck around to the end, self-defense shoutouts are not where I'm reveling in the proposition that the bad guy won the room temperature challenge by taking a dirt nap. It's where I'm reveling in the proposition that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to prevent the bad guy from making him do the same. Because dead good guys aren't, good. Not to me, anyway. First up is this piece from WCJB.com. Man shot while trying to break into home. This is from November 9th. Lake City, Florida. Columbia County deputies arrested a man after they say he attempted to break into a home. Deputies said Brandon Michael Slikanitz? Hey, let's kill this ad. There we go. Yes, thank you for that. That was like really loud in my headphones. Anyhow, Columbia County deputies arrested a man after they say he attempted to break into a home. Deputies said Brandon Michael Slikanitz, 34, tried to break into a home near Northwest Leonia Way, armed with a shotgun. The homeowner, who was inside with his children, told deputies that he shot Slikanitz, who then ran away. Deputies said Slikanitz was transported to an area hospital and is now in custody. In a statement, Columbia County Sheriff Mark Hunter said incidents like this are extremely rare here, but I'm glad that this resident was prepared to defend their home and family. Slikanitz will be charged with attempted home invasion robbery, aggravated assault with a firearm, burglary of a structure while armed, grand theft of a firearm, burglary of a conveyance, and grand theft. He's expected to be booked into the Columbia County Detention Facility upon being released from the hospital. Next up.
Jesus, that guy was a piece of crap.
No kidding. Here's another piece of crap. This is from Dayton247now.com. Coroner identifies man found dead Thursday night on Susanna Avenue. No, wait. Why did this go to a completely different story? This is not the story. That's aggravating as hell. That is not the story. This is not the droid I'm looking for. Why did you do that?
Story, or not looking for the story.
Oh, that is aggravating as hell. This was actually a story about a burglar dude getting his ass shot, which I can't find now. Summon 'em, bitch! That is really, really... I want to cuss. Seriously.
So you still have 2 left. You still have 2 left you can use.
Yeah, that's aggravating. So let's go to this next one. From colotv.com, man shot after reportedly breaking into vehicle in Lovelock. From November 12th, Lovelock, Nevada. An investigation is underway in Lovelock following a reported vehicle burglary and shooting. It happened November 10th, 2020, around 8:45 p.m. The City of Lovelock Police Department said officers responded to the area of 6th Street and Dartmouth Avenue and found a man in the street with a gunshot wound. Witnesses told police that the man had broken into a vehicle and was confronted by the owner of the vehicle and 2 others. The man got out of the vehicle and rushed at them, witnesses said. One of them had a 12-gauge shotgun. Witnesses said when he attempted to grab the gun, he was shot once in the abdomen. He was taken to renowned medical via care flight. His condition was not released. No arrests have been made, and the incident is under investigation. That's just a case of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. You don't reach for the shotgun. Didn't you listen to that dude in Kenosha who reached for the rifle? Both of them, and they paid for it. Next up from CBS42.com. Ex-boyfriend opens fire on 3, killing 1. From November 10th, Birmingham, Alabama. The victim of this homicide investigation has been identified as Loretta Frazier, 65 years. The preliminary investigation suggests Williams, who was in a previous romantic relationship with the surviving female, came to the location and shot all 3 people inside, Birmingham PD reports. The wounded male victim inside was able to return fire, fatally wounding Williams. The investigation indicates a domestic report was filed at this location within the last 24 hours, and there has been a history of domestic-related incidents. Updates will be provided. So, let's see. Let's go read the main story. That was apparently the update. The Birmingham Police Department is investigating a shooting that happened in the 1100 block of 12th Street North Tuesday morning that left 2 dead, including the alleged gunman, and 2 injured. According to Sergeant Rod Malden, officers were called to a residence around 11 a.m. on reports of people being shot. Once on the scene, officers discovered a man deceased in the front lawn of the home. Authorities then entered the residence and discovered a woman who was also pronounced dead at the scene. 2 other individuals were also found suffering from gunshot wounds. BPD says a woman had life-threatening injuries and a man has non-life-threatening injuries. Both were taken to UAB Hospital for treatment. After an initial investigation, the ex-boyfriend of one of the victims came to the residence for an undisclosed reason and shot the 3 individuals. One of the victims was able to return fire and struck the shooter, killing him after he attempted to flee. So, there you go, folks. It's damn sure better to have it not needed than to need it not have it, right? And last, but most certainly not least, from newson6.com. Man accused of shooting at deputy held at gunpoint by homeowner until police arrived. Okmulgee County, Oklahoma. A man is in jail accused of shooting at sheriff deputies during a chase on Monday. The homeowner then found the man in his yard Tuesday morning and held him at gunpoint until help could get there. The Okmulgee Sheriff's Office said they were searching for Dustin Maris until 3 a.m. Tuesday before calling off the search. Led them on I'd say about 6 to 7 mile pursuit, and toward the end of that pursuit, the driver of the vehicle fired an unknown amount of rounds at the deputy, Sergeant Aaron Swayze said. At around 7 a.m., police said they got a call from Chris McKinney, who said the suspect was in his front yard. I heard my oldest son came in there and say, "Daddy, Daddy, someone's at the door," McKinney said. McKinney said he knew deputies had been searching for someone, so he immediately grabbed his shotgun. He said when he went outside, he saw Maris trying to get into his brother's car in the next driveway. I just knew what I had to do. I wasn't going to let anything happen to my kids, so I just grabbed a shotgun, McKinney said. They had said he was armed and dangerous. McKinney said Maris asked for a ride to town and said he didn't do anything wrong, but McKinney held him at gunpoint in his yard until deputies arrived. I told him it didn't matter. I said they were chasing him, looking for him, and they were coming to get him, and I told him he could get a ride to the police station, McKinney said. The Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office said it's best not to take matters into your own hands, but McKinney said he'd do it all over again to protect his family. And that's what any real adult human being should say to that. So there we have it, folks. Despite what NPR and others would say, the good guy with the gun stops the bad guy with the gun. Funny how that works, ain't it? At this point, it is time to wrap it up. It is time to put the chairs on the tables and sweep up the floors and roll up the awnings and bring down the security grates over the windows. But before we do that, I'd like to give my esteemed panel the opportunity to leave us with any parting shots, final thoughts, words of wisdom, or plugs that they'd like to make. So let's go ahead and start with Pickle himself, Calaveras 32 Special. Anything you'd like to say, sir?
Not really. I appreciate the invite. If you haven't followed everyone that's on, here on the panel, I encourage you to do so. They all produce great content. Some of us have also experimented with other platforms, since some of the big ones have been less than friendly to our cause recently. And if you're going to be up early enough in time for tomorrow, come join us. With some of us from the panel will be up tomorrow morning with Travis P11 over on Caliber Corner. Thanks for the invite, Budget.
Oh, the hub says his lawyer will be in touch. AOC won. No. I can
and I told
declare
him
that.
we need to just accept the results and come together.
That's right. Accept it and unite. Roll call. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with, sir?
Well, first and foremost, thanks for having me on the show. I greatly appreciate it.
You're always
you can
welcome,
go
brother.
right on. You can find me on the Instagram, on Twitter, and on YouTube at Roll Call 219. I want to thank everybody that supported me the other night for Rants and Raves, which is Wednesday night, 9:30, 10-ish, whenever my internet wants to work, or YouTube for that matter, for the 700 subscriber giveaway. It was fun. A lot of you guys were on there. I was having technical difficulties because Budget wanted to be on the show, and I blame him.
Hey, I'll take that. I got broad shoulders.
There you go. And you guys go over there and subscribe, and I'll try and throw some more content out here in the next couple of weeks. I found some 9mm just laying around, so we'll make a shooting video or something. So go over there, say hi to me, comment on my videos, join me for Wednesday nights, Rants and Raves, 9:30, 10-ish. That's Central Standard Time, the real time, because everybody revolves around us. And thanks again.
And last but most certainly not least, the tactical salmonista himself, the irascible yet lovable Squibload. Anything you'd like to say, sir?
Nothing that isn't true or doesn't have a lot of swear words in it.
Okay. Well, on that note, I'm going to say thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you guys on the panel. I appreciate it. Everybody that's watching this should go check them out. They do some pretty cool stuff. Also want to say, hey, if you guys like the shirt, the assault is a verb, not the weapon, go on over to the Spreadshirt shop. Check that out. I have some stuff coming up soon. I'm going to be doing a review, once I get some ammo in here, of a pistol that I recently picked up, a Glock 48. I just couldn't pass it up, so I made a little swappy and got it. So far, I've been carrying it pretty much every day since I've gotten it, and I freaking love it. So we'll look at that. Those that didn't see this, I think I showed this the other day, but Mantis sent me something interesting. It is, those of you that might recognize what this kind of looks like, is a bolt carrier group and charging handle and a magazine for an AR-15. What this is a trigger reset system for dry fire for your AR. This replaces the bolt carrier group and charging handle. Then you swap the magazine in, because this is the battery. And when you squeeze your trigger, instead of normal dry fire, it's click, reach back, rack the charging handle, go back to it, click, reach back, rack the charging handle, etc. Hammer strikes this spot, shoves a piston out that resets your trigger. So you get the ability to rapidly dry fire your AR-15 without breaking your firing grip, without breaking your sight picture. You get to use and feel your own trigger break, your own trigger reset. It's pretty cool. And this particular model has a laser. It's a green laser that'll work with the Mantis Laser Academy, which I'm going to check out too, or any other laser dry fire system app, or any reactive targets that'll react to a laser. So I'm going to do a cool video on this here in the very near future. So that's all I got to say, other than thank you all for coming, folks. Again, I say this every week because I mean it. I am humbled and amazed that you've chosen to spend this time with me, listening to us blather on about politics, being out there in the chat and having discussions yourself. You could be doing anything on a Friday, but you're here. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And, you know, really, folks, we have a fight ahead of us. You know, the whole fight for the Second Amendment is not something that's really ever going to be over. There is no, now we get to rest. Now we get to take a break. Now we're done. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. And we have to be eternally vigilant. And we have to be eternally on the backs and in the ears of our Congress critters and elected representatives. Send them a snail mail, email, telephone, telegraph, smoke signals, carrier pigeons, heliograph, Morse code, anything that you have to do to let them know what you think, and never, ever, ever give up the fight. And I'll see you guys on the next one.